Welcome to Fear and Fiction, where the stories are strange and the fear is real. What's going on, Fear and Fiction family? We are back at it. Hope everybody's doing well. I want to thank everybody for continuing to support. Today we have some Airbnb stories. Most people have actually stayed in Airbnbs. I myself have, of course, stayed in Airbnbs. I've had some creepy situations go on, but these stories are great. Please let me know how you feel about them. Now let's get into it. My pops passed last year. I am telling you that first because it matters for the rest of this story. He was 68. He had been a Steelers fan since he was a boy in 1965. He could tell you the starting lineup of every Super Bowl team they ever fielded. He had a Terry Bradshaw jersey older than I am. And the one thing he always wanted and never did was take his sons to a game in Pittsburgh. So in 2023, my younger brother and I planned a trip, just the three of us. Drive up from North Carolina, stay the weekend, watch the game on a Sunday in November. Pops was already sick by then. We did not know how sick yet, but he was tired. Slowing down, my brother and I told him it was now or never. He said, "Let's go." Pittsburgh hotels for a Steelers game weekend are not cheap. Anything within walking distance of the stadium was $400 a night. Anything in a normal hotel district downtown was $250. My brother found an Airbnb online for $90 a night. 2-bedroom row house, renovated. Pictures looked clean. Reviews were okay, not great, but okay. The listing said it was a 15-minute drive from the stadium. We booked it. That is on him. That is on me. Neither of us looked close at the address. We drove up Saturday morning. Pops was in the front seat, talking the whole way about the '75 Super Bowl, the Immaculate Reception, Lynn Swann. My brother was driving. I was in the back, looking out the window as we crossed into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a beautiful city when you come in over the Fort Pitt Bridge. All those rivers, the yellow bridges, the skyline coming up out of the hills. Pops got quiet when he saw it. I think he was a little bit overwhelmed. Then we got off the highway, and we started driving up. Pittsburgh is built on hills, steep, narrow hills with row houses stacked on the sides. The address my brother was driving to took us up Center Avenue, past a few empty lots, past streets where every other house was boarded up, past a corner where 3 young men stood watching the car go by without any expression on their faces at all. Pops looked at the empty houses and he said, "Where are we, son?" My brother said, "We are almost there. Address says Center Avenue." Pops said, "This is the Hill District." My brother and I did not know what that meant, but Pops did. He was an older black man from the South. He had been to Pittsburgh once, in 1986 for a funeral. He knew. He said, "Y'all booked us a place in the Hill?" My brother said, "Is that bad?" Pops did not answer. He just looked out the window. The Hill District is the historic black neighborhood of Pittsburgh. In the 1940s and 50s, it was one of the most important black cultural centers in America. The jazz scene there was world famous. Lena Horne sang in clubs there. Duke Ellington played there. August Wilson, the playwright, grew up there and set most of his plays there. Then in 1956, the city tore down most of the lower hill to build the Civic Arena. 8,000 people lost their homes. The neighborhood never really came back. By the 80s and 90s, the Hill was one of the toughest neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. That history was sitting in the back seat of our rental car, and it was the first thing Pops felt when we got off the highway. We pulled up to the address. Skinny 3-story row house, brick, steep concrete steps up to the front door. On either side of it, the houses were boarded up. The one on the left had a tree growing through the second floor window. The lockbox was on the porch railing. We let ourselves in. The inside was renovated, like the picture said. New floors, fresh paint, new furniture from a chain store. But it had the smell of a house that had been empty for a while. The kind of smell that means nobody has actually been living here. Just guess. In and out. There was a basement door at the back of the kitchen. It had a padlock on it, on the outside, so somebody from inside the house could not get out of the basement. Pops walked over and tested the padlock. He pulled at it. It was locked tight. He looked at me and my brother and he said, "Who puts a lock on a basement from the outside?" Nobody answered, because there was not a good answer. My brother said, "It is probably for storage. Host said in the listing he stores his tools down there." Pop said, "You store tools, you put a lock on a shed. You do not put a lock on a basement door." Then he looked at us and he said, "Y'all keep your phones on you tonight." We went out to dinner downtown, got back around 11. The walk from the rental car to the front door was about 20 feet, and in that 20 feet I felt eyes on me from somewhere I could not see. Inside, Pops went to the bedroom on the first floor. My brother and I took the two upstairs. I kept my phone on the pillow next to me. I did not sleep well. I cannot tell you why. Around 2 in the morning, I heard it. From under the floor. Knocking. Slow. From the basement. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. I sat up. I tried to tell myself it was the pipes. Old houses make noise. Then somebody knocked again. From the basement. 3 times. I texted my brother across the hall. He texted back, "I hear it too." Then I heard Pops' door open. I heard him walk down the hallway, slow, the way he walked at 68 years old. I heard him stop at the basement door. Then I heard him say, "Hello?" Loud, clear, like he was trying to get an answer. And from the other side of that locked basement door, somebody answered. A woman's voice. She said, "He locked me down here." Now, I want you to understand my Pops. He was a country man, North Carolina farm raised. He was not afraid of much. He was also sick. He did not have his full strength, and he was 68 years old, in a strange city, in a neighborhood he did not know, in a house where a woman was telling him from a locked basement that somebody had put her down there. He came up the stairs to my brother's room first, because my brother was closer. He said, "Call the police. Right now. Both of y'all get dressed." My brother called 911. They said it would be 20 minutes before a unit got there. 20 minutes. Pop said, "We are not waiting 20 minutes in this house." We threw our things into the bags. We grabbed his medicine. We went down the stairs as quietly as we could. As we passed the basement door, the woman started knocking again. Faster this time, harder. She was not saying anything, just knocking. Pop stopped at that door. He put his hand flat on it, and he said real quiet, "Help is on the way. We are going to wait outside for them. Hold on." Then we left. We sat in our rental car parked across the street, engine running, headlights off, watching the front door of that house. About 6 minutes after we got in the car, before the police arrived, I saw something. A figure came around the side of the house. From the back, from wherever the basement led out, tall, a man. He moved fast. He did not look toward our car. I do not think he knew we were there. He got into a pickup truck parked half a block down the street and he drove away. The police got there 10 minutes later. 2 officers. Pops talked to them, told them everything. The basement, the voice, the man in the truck. They went into the house. They came back out 15 minutes later. One of them said, "Sir, the basement is empty." Pops said, "What do you mean empty?" The officer said, "The lock is on the door. Nothing is down there, just storage. We checked twice." My brother said, "We heard her." The officer said, "I am not saying you did not hear something. I am telling you what we found." They took our information. They told us they would file a report. They suggested we find a hotel. We slept at a Hampton Inn in Monroeville that night. Drove to the game in the morning. Pops did not say much during the game. Steelers won. 2 months after we got home, Pops got worse. 6 months later, he was gone. I never asked him what he thought happened in that basement. He never brought it up. But about 3 weeks before he died, he was sitting on the porch with me. He was not really there most of the time by then. The medication, the pain, and out of nowhere he said, "You remember Pittsburgh?" I said, "Yes, Pops." He said, I hope they found her. Then he closed his eyes. I do not know what happened in that house. I do not know who she was. I do not know if the police ever followed up on the man in the pickup truck. I checked the listing a year later. It had been removed from Airbnb. That is all I know. But every time the Steelers play, I think about my pops. And every time I think about my pops, I think about a woman knocking on a basement door, and the way her voice said the words, "He locked me down here," like she had said them many, many times before, and nobody had ever heard her until us. My daughter is 17 years old. She is the smartest person I have ever met in my life. 3.9 grade point average. Captain of the debate team, volunteers at the senior center on weekends. And in the spring of her junior year, she told me she wanted to look at colleges in Connecticut. Now, I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I have never been to Connecticut in my life. The only thing I know about Connecticut is that Yale is there, and that Yale costs $90,000 a year. My daughter said, "Mama, there are scholarships. Just take me to look." So I took a Friday off work. We drove 14 hours straight up Interstate 95. Got into Hartford on a Thursday night, planning to tour Trinity College on Friday morning, UConn on Saturday, and Yale on Sunday before driving back. Hotels in Hartford, even in the suburbs, were $250 a night, times 3 nights, plus food, plus gas. That was over $1,000 before we even got to the application fees. I am a single mother. I work in medical billing. I make decent money, but I do not have $1,000 to spare on a hotel. So I went on Airbnb, and I found a 2-bedroom apartment in Hartford, central to all 3 campuses, for $65 a night. The pictures were nice. Hardwood floors, a little balcony, window boxes with flowers. The reviews were sparse. Only 4 reviews total, but all 4 said it was clean and quiet. I booked it. I told my daughter we were saving $500. She was excited. We drove into Hartford after dark on Thursday. The GPS took us off the highway and onto a wide street called Albany Avenue. If you have never been to Hartford, let me tell you what Albany Avenue looks like at 10 at night. Long, empty, lit mostly by the security lights on liquor stores and check cashing places. Half the buildings are boarded up. The other half are corner stores with bulletproof glass between the cashier and the customers. My daughter looked at me from the passenger seat and said, "Mama, where are we?" I said, "GPS says we are almost there. 5 more minutes." This was the North End of Hartford, the historic black neighborhood of the city. It used to be Jewish at the start of the last century. Then in the 1940s, after a flood and a series of slum clearance programs displaced black families from downtown, they had to go somewhere. They went to the North End. Bellevue Square, the first black public housing project in Hartford, opened on Bellevue Street in 1941. The North End has been the heart of black Hartford ever since. It has also been one of the poorest urban neighborhoods in the entire Northeast for decades. I did not know any of that when I booked the apartment. I was a tourist. Tourists do not know. The Airbnb was on the 2nd floor of a 3-family house off Garden Street. The host had left the key in the mailbox. We went up the stairs with our suitcases and we let ourselves in. And the inside, like the pictures, actually was nice. Clean, hardwood floors, a little kitchen, 2 bedrooms with the doors closed. There was a small dining table in the living room with a bowl of fruit on it, real fruit, apples and bananas. That detail bothered me a little. The host had set out fresh fruit for us. That meant somebody had been in the apartment recently, right before we got there. There was also mail. On the table by the front door, a small stack of envelopes, all addressed to a woman named Yolanda. I figured the host's name was Yolanda. The Airbnb listing had used a different first name, but plenty of people use a different name on Airbnb than their legal name. I did not think about it again that night. My daughter and I went to bed around 11, long drive, big day at Trinity in the morning. My daughter woke me up at 3 in the morning. She was standing next to my bed. She was crying. I have not seen my daughter cry in 5 years. She is a strong young woman. She does not cry. Not when her father left. Not when her grandmother died. Not when she got rejected from her dream summer program. She does not cry. and she was standing by my bed at 3 in the morning crying. I sat up and asked her what was wrong. There's a woman standing at the foot of my bed. I told her she had a bad dream. Mama, there's a woman at the foot of my bed. She has been there for 10 minutes. She is not a dream. I got up. I walked with her down the hall to her bedroom. I turned on the light. The room was empty. She was right there, my daughter whispered. By the dresser. She was just standing there looking at me. I asked her what the woman looked like. Black lady, maybe 40, long braids, wearing a yellow shirt. She was wet. Her hair was wet. I told her to come sleep in my bed. I left both lights on. Neither one of us slept the rest of that night. Friday morning we went to Trinity. Beautiful campus. My daughter loved it. By the time we got back to the apartment that afternoon, she was talking about it like she had not been crying in my room 8 hours earlier. Kids that age can switch like that. I could not. I kept thinking about the woman she had described, and I kept thinking about that mail by the front door. So when she went to take a shower, I picked up that stack of mail. 9 envelopes, all addressed to Yolanda Carter, all sent in the past 4 months. 2 of them were from Hartford Hospital. The others were from utility companies, credit cards, and a child support enforcement office. And one of them was from the Hartford Police Department. It was open. Somebody had read it and put it back in the envelope. I should not have. I know I should not have. But I pulled it out and I read it. It was a follow-up letter, case status update. Subject: Yolanda Carter, missing person reported by family member 8 months ago. The letter said the case remained open. No new leads. They would contact the family if anything developed. I sat down at the kitchen table and I read it again. Yolanda Carter, missing, 8 months. This was her apartment. We were sleeping in her apartment. And somebody who was not Yolanda, had been collecting her mail and reading it and putting it back, and renting her apartment out on Airbnb. I did not tell my daughter. I should have. Looking back, I should have packed up that minute and gotten us out of there. But I had paid for 3 nights. We had Yale on Sunday. She was so excited about the weekend. And honestly, I told myself it was probably nothing. The host was probably a relative collecting Yolanda's mail until they sorted things out. People disappear and come back. 8 months is not forever. That is what I told myself, because the truth was scarier than I could handle right then. Saturday night, I locked both bedroom doors before we went to sleep. I put a chair under the doorknob of mine. I told my daughter to sleep with her phone. She asked me why. I told her, just because. At 2:30 in the morning, I heard the front door of the apartment open. Somebody had a key. Somebody who was not me and not my daughter had a key to the apartment we were sleeping in. Footsteps walked from the front door to the kitchen. I heard the refrigerator open. I heard a glass come down from a cabinet. I heard water run. Then footsteps came down the hallway and stopped outside my daughter's bedroom door. I do not remember making a decision. I remember being in the hallway with my phone flashlight on. I remember screaming, "Get out of my house." I remember a man's shape in the dark by my daughter's door, turning around and looking at me, and then walking, not running, walking, back down the hallway and out the front door. Like he had been told a customer was complaining and he was leaving for now, but he might come back. My daughter and I packed in 7 minutes. We carried our suitcases down the stairs in our pajamas. We threw them in the trunk. We drove. I did not stop until I hit New Haven, got a hotel at 4 in the morning, paid $240 for 1 night. My daughter slept. I sat awake on the edge of the bed until the sun came up. We never went on the Yale tour. We drove back to Charlotte that morning. 14 hours straight. I called the Hartford police when I got home. I told them about the mail, about the man with the key, about the apartment being rented out. They opened a case file. 2 months later, they called me back. They had spoken to Yolanda Carter's sister. The sister had not been collecting any mail. The sister did not know the apartment was being rented out. The sister did not know who had a key. They never found Yolanda. They never identified the man. The Airbnb listing was taken down. My daughter goes to UNC Charlotte now. She decided she did not want to leave home for school. She has never asked me in 2 years what I think happened in Hartford. and I have never told her what I read in that letter. But sometimes I dream about a woman in a yellow shirt with wet hair, standing at the foot of my daughter's bed, trying to wake her up, trying to warn her. And I think about how if my daughter had not woken up that first night, if Yolanda had not come into that room and stood there until somebody saw her, we might have stayed 3 nights. We might have been in that bed when the man with the key came in on Saturday night. My daughter might not be at UNC Charlotte right now. I might not be telling this story. So whoever Yolanda was, wherever she is, thank you. My Uncle Ray died on a Tuesday. He had a heart attack in his kitchen by himself. He was 61. My mother called me Wednesday morning, crying. The funeral was Saturday. I had 3 days to fly back to Detroit. I have not lived in Detroit in 22 years. I left when I was 23, got a job in Atlanta, got married down there, stayed. I had been back exactly 4 times in those 22 years. Christmas, 2009. My grandmother's funeral, 2014. My nephew's graduation, 2019. And then this. Hotels in Detroit during a holiday weekend were $200 a night. My mother's house was full with family flying in. My cousin offered me his couch, but his apartment was a 1-bedroom and I did not want to put him out. So I went on Airbnb and I found a brick bungalow listed for $70 a night. 2-bedroom, renovated, pictures looked good. The address was on a side street off Dexter Avenue. Now, I want you to understand what happened when I read that address. I was sitting at my kitchen table in Atlanta, and I felt my chest tighten, because Dexter Avenue is in Russell Woods. And Russell Woods is where my Uncle Ray grew up, where my mother grew up, where I spent every summer until I was 16. Russell Woods is one of those Detroit neighborhoods that is sacred ground. Diana Ross grew up there, Florence Ballard, Mary Wilson, the whole Supremes. Golden World Records had a studio at Buena Vista and Dexter. Malcolm X gave his message to the Grassroots speech at King Solomon Baptist Church on Dexter Avenue in 1963. Over 1,000 brick bungalows and Tudor homes, tree-lined, gridded streets, the largest historic district in Detroit. Black middle class, doctors and teachers and auto workers and their families. The kind of neighborhood the rest of America did not know was black until they made movies about it. My grandmother's house was on a side street off Dexter. My Uncle Ray inherited that house when she passed. He lived in it until the night he died. And the Airbnb I was booking was 3 blocks from my uncle's house. I told myself this was fine. Maybe it was even good. I would be close to family. I could walk to my uncle's after the funeral. It would feel like coming home. I booked it. I flew in Friday afternoon, rented a car at the airport, drove out to Russell Woods, and the first thing I noticed, before I even got to the Airbnb, was that the neighborhood was different. Most of the houses were still there. The big brick bungalows and Tudors my grandmother used to point at when we walked. They were still standing, but every third one was empty. Boards on the window, chains across the porches. For sale signs that had been up so long the paint had faded. The houses that were not empty had bars on the windows now. Iron security doors that had not been there when I was a kid. Russell Woods used to be the kind of neighborhood where you slept with your windows open in the summer. Not anymore. I pulled up to the Airbnb and I sat in the rental car for a full minute before I got out. Because I knew this house. It was the Wilkins house. Mr. and Mrs. Wilkins. They lived there when I was a kid. He was a preacher at one of the smaller AME churches. She made the best pound cake on the block. Their daughter Diane used to play with me in the summer, and now their house was an Airbnb. I got out of the car. I went up the porch steps. I knew exactly where the porch creaked because I had jumped on that porch with Diane Wilkins when I was 9 years old. The lockbox was on the railing. I let myself in. Inside was renovated. Hardwood floors refinished. New kitchen. Furniture from a chain store, but the layout was the same. Same living room I had eaten pound cake in. Same hallway I had run down on summer afternoons. Same back bedroom Diane had shared with her sister. I sat on the edge of the bed in that back bedroom and I cried for about 10 minutes. Not because I was sad about my uncle, Not really. I cried because everybody who had loved this house was gone or scattered, and somebody had bought it for cash on a tax sale and renovated it and turned it into a place for tourists to sleep in. Tourists like me. I went to my uncle's funeral Saturday morning. It was beautiful. He was beautiful. The church was full. Afterwards, we went back to my mother's house in Southfield. I stayed until 10 o'clock at night. Drove back to Russell Woods. Drove back to the Wilkins house. I went to bed in the back bedroom around midnight. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up because somebody was on the porch. I could hear the porch creaking, the same way it had creaked when I was 9 years old. Somebody walking back and forth across it, slow, like an old man's walk. I lay in that bed and I listened. And after about 3 minutes, the front door knob started to turn. Now, I had locked that door. I had checked it twice before I went to bed. Because I am from Atlanta now, and I am not used to sleeping in Detroit anymore. That door was locked, and somebody on the other side was trying it, slow, patient, like somebody who used to live here and had forgotten the locks had been changed. I got up. I picked up the only thing in that bedroom heavy enough to swing, a lamp. I walked down the hallway as quiet as I could. I stopped at the corner of the living room and I looked toward the front door. Through the curtains, I could see the silhouette of a man, older, heavy set, wearing a suit jacket, standing on the porch with his hand on the doorknob, and then he stopped trying the door. He took his hand off the knob. He stood there for a moment, and then he turned around, and he walked back down the porch steps. He paused at the bottom of the steps. He looked up at the house, and then he was gone. Not walked away, gone. Like somebody had cut a frame out of a film. I checked the porch through the curtain, empty. I checked the side yard from the kitchen window, empty. I checked the street through the dining room window, empty. I called my mother at 6 in the morning. Ma, the Wilkins house, the one Diane grew up in. Who lives there now? She was quiet for a second. Baby, why are you asking me that? I told her I was renting it. I told her about the porch, about the man at the door. She got real quiet again. Mr. Wilkins died in that house in 2004. Heart attack. Right there in the front room. Mrs. Wilkins moved to her sister's in Inkster. She passed in 2017. I asked her if Mr. Wilkins ever wore a suit jacket on the porch in the morning. He wore a suit jacket every Sunday for 40 years. He was a preacher, baby. I checked out of the Airbnb that day. I drove to the airport 6 hours before my flight, and I sat in a Starbucks until it was time to board. On the flight back to Atlanta, I thought about Mr. Wilkins, trying to come home to a house that was not his anymore, trying to come home to a porch he had built, to a wife who had not been there in years, to a daughter who had grown up and moved away. And I thought about how many other houses in Russell Woods are Airbnbs now, and how many other men in suit jackets are walking up to porches at 3 in the morning, and how many of them are still trying to come home.
All right. If you made it this far, I want to thank you very much. I really appreciate the support. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please hype the video. More to come. Take care.